Right, so welcome back to another video on this channel. Welcome back to another episode of my Premier League Game Week predictions. This is now Game Week 33, and of course a lot has happened since the last episode I did of these Premier League Game Week predictions, because of course the Super League has now come and gone, fingers crossed anyway. But yeah, basically a lot's happened in this last week, but nevertheless we're going to get straight into these Premier League Game Week predictions now, starting off with the Friday night football taking place tonight as of the upload of this video, taking place at the Emirates Stadium. Arsenal versus Everton. Now first of all, Arsenal do have of course a protest taking place at around 6 PM just before the game kicks off anyway, and yeah, could that take a toll mentally and physically on these Arsenal players? Who knows, of course, because we did see the protest that did take place at Stamford Bridge earlier on in the week have a big toll mentally on the Chelsea players as well. It definitely did affect them, and of course Arsenal themselves missing Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, Alexandre Lacazette, and Lacazette, who has been a really good player for them over the last few weeks. They're also missing Kieran Tierney and David Luiz defensively as well, and have been for a few weeks now. Everton themselves have a fully fit squad despite Abdoulaye Doucouré, so overall I do think that Everton actually will win this one. I just have a sneaking suspicion, especially with the protest, taking a mental toll on this Arsenal team. I just think that Everton will get a win in this one, and that's why I've gone for Arsenal 1, Everton 2, a somewhat shock defeat for Arsenal at home to Everton on Friday night football. And yeah, I just think that Everton will take all 3 points from the Emirates after this Arsenal protest. And now we're on to the Saturday's games. The first game on Saturday taking place in the early kickoff at Anfield, Liverpool versus Newcastle. Now first of all, Newcastle, they are nearly there. They have nearly crossed the relegation barrier, because they have got themselves 2 wins in their last 2 games over Burnley and of course West Ham United last weekend, and a massive 3-2 win for them. They put the pressure on Fulham now, and yeah, they're just probably 3 or 4 points I'd say away from actually securing themselves a Premier League place for next season. Liverpool on the other hand, of course, they're back on form now to a certain extent. They're unbeaten in the last 4 games in the Premier League. They did draw 1-1 on Monday night against Leeds, but overall I think that the ongoings of the European Super League etc. did kind of take a little bit of a toll on these Liverpool players. But overall I think that Liverpool will be too much of a match for this Newcastle team and Steve Bruce, of course. I think they'll have too much quality to not win this game, and overall I think it would be a relatively comfortable afternoon for Liverpool in this game. I've gone for Liverpool 2, Newcastle 0. I just think that Liverpool, as I said, will have too much firepower for this Newcastle team to handle. So yeah, 2-0 Liverpool in this one. And now into the next game taking place at the London Stadium, West Ham versus Chelsea. A massive game in terms of the Champions League qualification rounds, because of course 2 teams that are very similar in the table. I'm pretty sure there's a point separating these 2 sides, but nevertheless it's going to be a really tough game. As I keep saying on this channel, West Ham have completely exceeded expectations this season. David Moyes doing a really good job there. They did lose really disappointingly last weekend to Newcastle in that 3-2 loss. I mean, a lot of defensive mistakes cost them the game overall. They are missing a few players though, like Declan Rice, Mikel Antonio, Aaron Cresswell. And Chelsea on the other hand, a really disappointing game against Brighton on Tuesday night, distracted by the European Super League once again. And of course we did leave the Super League during that game as well, so maybe the players, their heads were a little bit turned in that game, but nevertheless we have a chance to get back to winning ways in this one. And to be honest, I'm going to trust in Thomas Tuchel. I'm going to trust in this Chelsea team, because every time since Thomas Tuchel has took over, we have had a big game. We've come out, in flying colours, and we have actually, got a result and won the game overall. And I think the same thing will happen in this one, and that is why I've gone for West Ham 1, Chelsea 2. I think that Chelsea will get themselves a massive win and, secure themselves in the Champions League for at least another week. And now to the next game taking place on Saturday night, Sheffield United versus Brighton and Hove Albion. Now, of course, Sheffield United, as we know, are already relegated. I think they've lost their last 5 or 6 games or something in the Premier League. They've been absolutely shambolic defensively and offensively since Chris Wilder did get sacked, and overall Brighton have a lot more to play for in this game because they're hovering above the relegation zone now. I don't think they've actually won in their last 3 games, so they'll be well and truly up for this one. They'll need a result. They are missing Ben White after his sending off against Chelsea on Tuesday night, but overall I just for some reason have this feeling that Sheffield United are for some reason going to pick up a point in this one, even though Brighton have a lot to play for. They have a lot more on the line, and I think they definitely will be more up for it. But Sheffield United, once teams go down, they kind of play with this nothing to lose attitude, and that's why I think Sheffield United will claim a point. Gone for Sheffield United 1, Brighton 1. It wouldn't surprise me whatsoever if Brighton were to win this game, but overall I think that I've gone for a point simply because I just have that inkling that Sheffield United will get something from this game. Now into the next game we move on to Sunday's games, and the early kickoff on Sunday is taking place at the Molineux. Wolves versus Burnley. Now overall Burnley kind of back into the mix in the relegation battle now, because they actually haven't won in the last 3 games. In fact, they've lost the last 3 games. Wolves on the other hand have actually won their last 2 games against Fulham and Sheffield United, of course both threatened by relegation. And yet, to be honest, I just don't think this is going to be a good game whatsoever. I'm not going to lie. And originally I did predict a goalless 0-0 draw in this one, but purely because of the fact that Sean Dyche and Burnley, whenever they need to win games to survive relegation, they just tend to do it. They just tend to grind out wins when they need to, and for that reason I'm going to go for Wolves 1, Burnley 2. I think both sides will score, but I just think that Burnley will have enough to win this game simply because of the fact they have something to play for, and I think Sean Dyche and Burnley will just about nick this one in a 2-1 win. Now to the next game, which is of course a derby game, and the biggest game in the Premier League definitely this weekend anyway, taking place at Elland Road, Leeds United versus Manchester United. Now, two teams that are on really good form because United have won their last 5 games, and once again I bring it back to this record that Manchester United have. They have only lost 1 game in the Premier League since the 1st of November, and ironically that game did come at home to Sheffield United in that 2-1 win in I think January. So nevertheless, United are in really good form. They have been for quite some time now. They're definitely finishing second in the Premier League this season. Leeds themselves actually are unbeaten in the last 5 games as well. They got a really good draw against Liverpool on Monday night, and they're such a mixed bag, Leeds, and I just really struggle to predict them every single week. I'm not sure if I get any of their predictions really right that often, but overall I think there'll be a massive amount of goals in this one. I think it will be a really entertaining game. It wouldn't surprise me whatsoever if one team nicked the win, but overall I'm going to sit on the fence in this one. Going to go for an entertaining Leeds 2, Manchester United 2. So a 2-2 draw in this one, a 4-goal thriller. Wouldn't surprise me whatsoever, as I said, if one team won this by 3-2, but I'm going to sit on the fence and say 2-2. And now into the next game taking place at Villa Park on Sunday evening. Aston Villa versus West Bromwich Albion, once again a Midlands derby in this one. Jack Grealish still missing for Aston Villa, and I definitely think you've seen the impact his absence has, caused on this Aston Villa team. They've only won 1 of their last 7 games in the Premier League, so they'll be desperate, get things right in this one. West Brom were just really seen off in embarrassing fashion against Leicester just tonight as I record this video. I'm recording this straight after that game has ended. 3-0 to Leicester in that one. And yeah, West Brom really put no fight in the game whatsoever. I'm not going to lie, they were really, really poor at both ends of the pitch. And overall, I think that West Brom will continue that poor form into this game. I just think that Aston Villa will have just enough to win this game. Jack Grealish or not, I think Villa will nick this one. I'm going to go for Aston Villa 2, West Brom 1. And yeah, I think that West Brom are looking like they're down at this moment of time. I think they need to get something from that Leicester game to have any chance. And yeah, I think that this will be a 2-1 Aston Villa win in the end. And now to the final Premier League game of this particular game week, taking place on Monday Night Football, and that is Leicester City versus Crystal Palace. Now, as I said, Leicester were really good, especially in the first half against West Brom. They saw off West Brom in style in that first half by 3-0. Jamie Vardy finally getting himself back on the score sheet after what was a pretty lengthy goal drought, I'm not going to lie. Crystal Palace themselves, though, they kind of are just hanging on to this lower mid-table as they usually do at this stage in the season. They're not threatened by relegation, and they're probably not going to get into the top half, so they're kind of, as I said, steadying themselves in lower mid-table. But Roy Hodgson and Crystal Palace, they tend to pick up results in the most strangest of fashions. They tend to pick up points where they're not really expected to, and despite the fact that Leicester have got themselves a really good win tonight, I think Crystal Palace will get themselves a point from this one. I really, really do. And yeah, even though Crystal Palace have only won 1 of the last 6 games in the Premier League, I do think that they will get a point from this one. I've gone for Leicester 1, Crystal Palace 1. I've sat on a stalemate in this one, a 1-1 draw at the King Power Stadium, and yeah, not a great point for Leicester, but a point that, doesn't really make much of a difference for Crystal Palace, but one I definitely think they would take at this stage in the season. And on to the final game, which actually isn't a Premier League game, but of course, as we all know, the Carabao Cup final is taking place this weekend. Manchester City versus Tottenham Hotspur, and of course, a lot has happened at Tottenham Hotspur, since the last Gameweek predictions video, because Jose Mourinho has lost his job, he has been sacked, probably some correlations to the European Super League, but nevertheless, we won't get too much into that. Ryan Mason is in interim charge for this game. Imagine he was to win a trophy for Spurs in his second ever game in charge. I mean, that would be something special, especially how he, had to retire from the game, and he's only 29 years of age at this moment in time as well. It would be mental. Will Harry Kane be fit for this game? I'm not too sure. It's probably a 50-50 at this stage. I'd say he'll probably make the bench at the very least, but overall, whether Harry Kane plays or not, I think that City will have too much for this Spurs team. They got themselves back to winning ways with a win against Aston Villa in midweek, and overall, I think City will win this one fairly comfortably. I'm not going to lie. Gone for Manchester City 3, Tottenham Hotspur 1, just to extend that Spurs trophy drought once again, which will of course now extend to longer than 13 years. So yeah, City claiming the Carabao Cup in a 3-1 win in my personal opinion. And yeah, so that will bring us to the end of this video. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to drop a like as per usual, because it helps me out massively on this channel if you leave a like on this video, and also if you could subscribe to the channel as well, that would be massively appreciated by myself. We are looking to hit 1.6k subscribers now, and we are actually closing in on it now, so if you could hit that subscribe button, it would be massively appreciated in helping me get that goal. And yeah, thanks very much for watching guys, and I will see you guys in my next video.